Good morning. I'm ready, TJ. I'm ready. You know, this whole September thing is, I don't know if it's starting, whether it's ever going to happen. Some years it doesn't happen, the September, October corrective things. And as I'm looking at the charts, last night and this morning, thinking like, is this just a short-term correction that is about over and the market's going to turn to push back up? Um, And, as those thoughts evolve and thinking about the things that we do and the seasonality, it's like, well, if the seasonality corrective thing actually came to fruition, wouldn't it just be a perfect scenario of this pullback beginning and pushing up to new highs and then the correction starting? No. The bottom line is you got to look at the charts and say, this is what they are, and this is what I have to trade. So as I'm looking at this, and I'm starting with the Russell this morning, the futures, and I'm looking at this pullback and dip down here toward the converging 50 and 20, which is lined up with this support area. It's like, well, that's an obvious place to buy. It hit this resistance area and it pulled back. And my major support is down here. It's a little deep of a pullback, but in the context of just this part of the move, it's not terrible. A little bit past the halfway mark, of course, that we like. But now you see buyers beginning to step up. It's early in the day. This type of a pattern is one in which, let me just get my little drawing thing out here, is one in which we like to see a couple of days. So if today and tomorrow were days in which the market chopped back and forth, just as I'm applying it to this chart, we've had this discussions in the green room about multiple time frames and pullbacks that are, a bit steep and come in and begin to bottom. Why we like to have, let's assume this day closed that way, another day, because the hourly chart forms this bottoming process where you can view pullbacks, whether this is a head and shoulders top, whatever the pattern is, you can see the bottoming process beginning. So assuming that this is the low of this move, right, this bottoming tail bar here, and then it chopped around and maybe, a move down, just kind of imagining, just to explain the concept here of this bottoming process within this pullback, within this power move up. Well, yeah, let's go long. The resistance is right up here. And we, just like we apply bar by bar. And what is our first reference point of resistance day to day? Prior bar is high, right? Which, yesterday's pretty far away. It's not going to get up there, most likely. And so as it starts to move up, we just reverse the whole process. And let's clear that up. Let's assume we get a green day, and then, whatever jiggles happen, intraday, does it ever take out a prior bar's low as it starts to go up? And so that's our systematic objective process of, trend in this time frame, trend down on the hourly time frame, bottoming process, 2-3 bars. And then as it starts to move up again, while we can have intraday, these pullbacks, does it ever violate a prior bar's low, and so on. So this is how we discuss building a thought process as to what's happening in multiple time frames. YouTube asking, no, the bear isn't over. You should be figuring out why, and if not, asking if it's over. No, it's not over. Okay, so that's your opinion. I don't know where you see a bear market, quite honestly, because I don't see any bear market anywhere. Not in the equity markets, that's for darn sure. Is it choppy and erratic? Sure. I mean, this is an overall, in a sideways trend. That's not a bear market. That's a consolidation after a power move up. And so we don't know which way it's going to go. If it was to break down, we say, okay, that's the beginning of a bear market. Right now, within the context of the daily time frame, this took out all these highs. So this isn't an uptrend, and the pullback is viable, just not yet. Right? I don't know if it's going to stop here. I'm just discussing, trying to offer some insights as to what to look for if this is going to turn around, because in an uptrend, you look for turnarounds within that upward move. It's simple once you have a method. So looking at the ETF, you can see the gaps because of the overnight trading, but you apply the same thing. Is today a turning point? Does it go down? We're going to see. But you have to have a method of interpretation of what's happening. Otherwise, you're going to be all over the place. This is sure as hell isn't a bear market. Higher highs and higher lows, nasty drops, deep ones, but then right back up again. And this is pulling back within an uptrend toward an area of minor support and a rising 20 MA. Can it make the turn and push up? It's yet to be seen. Right now, we have slowing momentum. Last week, momentum is still slowing. It's a consolidation within an uptrend, and this could correct quite a bit without damaging that trend. I mean, it's black and white. Just, as we get into smaller time frames, of course, the 5-minute chart could be in a bear market, over the course of a few days, but that's a 5-minute chart. And now we've got the hourly chart that's rolled over. And so that's rolled over. But, again, this isn't an uptrend. Where does it come down to? Does it come down here? Is that the low? It's got to begin to smooth out and make a turn if that's going to happen. So we just don't know yet. We're in a holding process, so to speak, as far as long bias swing trades with this particular chart. And S&Ps. My continuous must have typed something by mistake. All right, so there's the S&Ps. They had the overnight dip down to the 20. Buyers stepped up there, right? Popped it back up in a pretty big way, So, the saying in the first Wall Street movie, the market never sleeps. Well, there you go, right down there around 3 a.m. That's when I guess the DAX opens up, and I don't know what they're doing in Europe, but obviously there's some kind of rally mode that probably happened there. And, look at that pullback and blast a wide range bar up. Now, momentum is slowing as we get closer to the open. Look at the distance between the highs there. So momentum slowing down. It's in an area of price resistance. So that all makes sense. And back to what I just explained was like, okay, this pulling back, how far does it pull back today? If that's going to happen, coming into this area, buyers should show up again and make that bottoming type of price action if that's what's in the cards. We're waiting, right? We say we're waiting for information, for things to come together as to the alignment of these longer or intermediate term time frames here, short, intermediate term. NASDAQ just consolidating at the highs after a run up. That's bullish. It dipped down yesterday and it came back up again. So, it's in a holding period where, sometimes we call this like a frog in a blender pattern, where it's just, it's going to go up. No, it's not. Oh, it's going to go down. No, it's not. It's going up. No, it's not. Going down, back and forth. And, it just chops you to pieces. And you see the hourly there just going sideways. Futures flip-flopping back and forth, back and forth. Was it over yet? I don't know, right? I don't know. I don't have a bar, right, that tells me that, hey, that was a washout. This was a little bit of one, but it's still trading within a range. And momentum is slowing down here at the open, the hourly chart. It's just a big, big mess. And recognizing that, the focus, keep you out of trouble, keep your perspective and bias about what's happening based on the charts. So I can get all wrapped up in the September, October thing, seasonality. I've looked at plenty of years where that has proven to be a non-event. And I've seen other years, and I just went through the correctives that have happened in recent years in the advisory letter last week. So there have been corrections, but we need something on the chart to say this is the beginning of it, and we don't have that yet. So again, keeping things in perspective, any market can do things that may not make sense just based on our own personal logic, but the chart tells us what we should be thinking. All right, we looked at the Russell, looking at the Dow. Let's just look at the Dow here, which may have rolled over already. I don't know yet. It made a lower high. Maybe this is going to make a higher low. It's in this area of support in the 50 MA. It's just not a pattern that is predictive, other than from a longer term perspective to say, hey, it's in an uptrend and consolidating, but trying to trade this on the daily chart, other than this nasty move down here, just doesn't make any sense. Futures. Again, we see pullbacks happening here in the same hourly type of a chart where is this the beginning of a bottoming process? We got this bottoming tail bar, that dip overnight, slowing momentum. This one made a lower high, and let's wait and see. So other than intraday trading, we don't have anything yet here to say, let's do something, with a thought of holding over the next several days. We don't have that yet. And Bitcoin, had that nasty break yesterday. This will be interesting to see how it plays out, right? I would see this move up on the 5-minute chart. One of the things I pointed out yesterday was you have to, again, keep things in perspective with that this big gap reversal power bar to the downside says it's going to go lower, right? Black and white. It's supposed to stay in the lower half of the big red bar. We'll see. We also talked about the fact that this is a void in a smaller time frame. It's a bunch of smaller bars going down. And so now it's starting to bottom out here. And that void is where prices could rally into. And, because this is somewhat damaged within this bullish move up, I've seen these kind of events, these big nasty bars get negated. Now, I don't know if that'll happen, but you have to have two scenarios based on objective information. Again, unless you're share sizing for up here, if you're, into a smaller time frame thing, it's going to go down, you could really get shellacked in a big way. And I'm not just because of Bitcoin. It could happen on any tradable instrument if you don't use proper money management and you don't have an objective way of saying, hey, how far can this thing go before things, begin to negate that? And we just say like the half of that bar. But at some point that this is bottoming, if it clears these highs, it's got a void up above here to go up. So maybe 50,000, it could form a pivot, these pivot highs. At some point on the way up, it would form a pivot high. And then what we would do is look for a retest of that to consider a short based on this big red bar. Common sense says if the pivot high forms up here, at 51,900, that wouldn't be anything more than a very short-term scalp, because for it to go all the way back up there, well, obviously that's bullish. Oil starting to roll over again. Yesterday, tried to turn. So it's just chopping around here, but look at this wide range bars blasting to the upside. It's the same idea that if it starts to come down under these lows, which is right there now, thereabouts, you can see them, it opens up the door to a move down. So that's the risk of the momentum moves and wide range bars. They have to create support because there's nothing underneath them. And it did that with this pivot low. So now if this does come down to retest, buyers have to show up again. Well, sometimes they don't come all the way up into resistance. So this price action makes sense. We talked about the breakout bar failure over here. So this is another chart where we're waiting for more information. Gold. It just got beaten down here. It's not like oil. This is a range expansion bottoming tail bar. It's a different conversation, but can this chop sideways here? Just like we looked at the other red bar that came down a minute ago, you can see how this is going sideways here and starting to bottom out. Can it clear these highs and negate that bar? I don't know yet. Waiting for information here as well. Silver, it's kind of messy. Maybe it could bring up the rear. I don't know. So staying away from that. Transports, just going nowhere, flip-flopping back and forth here. We got these big green bars. They couldn't follow through. So this idea, what we're talking about here this morning of, is this short-term correction over? Maybe it needs another day. Well, I would like to see these transports start to bring up the rear and show some relative strength. Not happening yet. But as I look for a certain scenario, I look for confirmation in other places for my scenario. So while the S&Ps are pulling back in an uptrend, let's go back here, pulling back to that 20 MA and bottoming here from a, intermarket relationship perspective, and the market's going up in a unified way and seeing the breadth that improved over the last week or so. We'd like to see the transports and the underperformers and things like, possibly, the airlines that have just been looking terrible, get turned around. That hasn't happened yet. So as we look at all of these charts and how is it that the transports became one of your indices? Because it's, you go way back when, Thane, to Dow theory, and the transports making new highs and the Dow making new highs. Whereas I'm not saying that is a true way to say a bull or a bear market, but from a common sense point of view, when you have economically sensitive stocks that are moving goods and services and people that are doing well, that's a good sign for the economy, and it makes sense. So why I've been talking about the transports bottoming out here and moving up, and then talking, well, interest rates are bottoming out. So when we look at the market from a broader sense of, looking at everything that's happening, we don't have to do that as day traders. But as we look at things technically to say what's happening in the economy, and if I see interest rates going up, which they do because there's a demand for money, and I see the transports going up, which are economically sensitive stocks, Federal Express and the rails, which they haven't been able to get out of their own way. CXS has been going down. So if we see those type of stocks going up, and we see things like consumer discretionary stocks going up, all of those things tell us that, whatever you think is going on, that the government is borrowing too much money, and that's a terrible thing, and we're all going to get killed for that at some time and all that. Well, it ain't happening today if you see those type of things performing well. So why we're looking to the transports to say, hey, with this market that's in an uptrend and breadth improving, can the transports go up? And then if it reverses back to the downside, we just, as technical traders, we shift, right? Are the transports going down, interest rates going down, and money getting out of retailing, which retailing got beat up this week, right? So we got all these mixed messages going on here, and that's the market we're dealing with right now. So I hope that all helps, guys. All yours, Dan.
All right, good morning, everyone. Yeah, I was looking at the market the same way of is this all we're gonna get? And yeah, I'm never a believer in something has to happen that time of year or whatever. Typically, I don't know. So we just and our approach allows us to stay objective every day. We're looking at the data. All right, so our opens are fine. We actually trimmed some inventory yesterday. Let's see this one. Yeah, GME. Yeah, whoever took me up on my bet for rum runners, the chart didn't really give me a bias, but fundamentally, I think it's garbage. $15 billion company that doesn't make money and has a horrible business model. Well, it looks like the fundamental people are winning right now. Look at CMG. Some guy was on CNBC. Their CFO talking about this. So what do? I pull it up, and that's an amazingly strong stock. My gosh. Let's see. I'm gonna get rid of this. There's a lot of amazingly strong stocks over just power trends, weekly, monthly. NVIDIA is in there. Look at Costco. Absolutely amazing strength. Lulu today had earnings gapping up to all-time highs there at 430. But I have no idea what to do with that from a pattern perspective other than see if you can get an intraday setup. This SPRT. We were watching this I was watching it all day yesterday because of the bullish gap. This was a Reddit short squeeze, and it had a beautiful 15% run into the close. Now it's gapping up. So if we can get a nice intraday setup, then that looks great to get on board. So what do? Put it in a window and watch it. See what happens. Macy's got an upgrade. Wow, was this earnings day? Yeah, I think it was earnings. That's a powerful bar for little Macy's. But it has all these football players. I have no interest in Macy's. CERT gapping down, 31 exchange. That went vertical. D-Dog here is on our list from yesterday. I like it over yesterday's high. This little guy, 918. I don't know what got it to pop like that, but maybe in a couple days if it sets up. Williams Sonoma, I like this. Williams Sonoma, putting that in a little window. This poor guy, over 50% haircut. That has to be a bio. Nothing to do with it. Nice bullish gap here on Groy. We'll keep an eye on that. Cisco got a downgrade. Little M top there, maybe 30-minute low, day trade, short. SE 3.25. It's a nasty gap. We'll come back to it. S gap down, recovered, no pattern. Hey, Robert. 65.50. It's in a downtrend, had a bearish close, gap and resistance, no interest. both airlines here, LUV and UAL, talking about more losses on, because of Corona and business travelers and all. This one looks great as a short, 30-minute low. That looks great. Let me put him over here. All right, no problem, Austin. Love also looks lower. It's a bearish daily, weekly. I like UAL a little better though. AVAV, nice, nice. WRB breakout, that's worth watching. I can't tell where it's gapping. Actually, let me put him right here. AVAV, that looks good. ABM gapping down 45 bucks, bearish gap. Let's come back to him, maybe 30-minute low. Wow, that was a sign of a nasty just liquidation. But now it has a bullish gap, 2150. That's what we call a bull gap surprise. That could be a 30-minute high. Start off with a day trade because you got a big old price boy here. Target 20, I don't know, 24, 26. That could be a home run. Let's keep an eye on that. That is crazy. Who received a vac? Wow, that is crazy. You know, another crazy thing I heard, I saw on, all right, there's no pattern, no volume. Another crazy thing I heard on Fox News last night. I forget what college, maybe Penn State or whatever, it doesn't matter. The guy is at home on his computer attending school. Ooh, that's loud. Attending school remotely. And the school fired him because he didn't get vaccinated. And it's like, dude, I'm at home. I'm not on campus. So yeah, there are some far-fetching beliefs out there. CPRT, ugly gap, we'll come back to you.